Welcome to Becoming a Sleep Consultant. I'm your host, Jayne Havens, a certified sleep consultant and founder of both Snooze Fest by Jayne Havens and Center for Pediatric Sleep Management. On this podcast, I'll be discussing the business side of sleep consulting. You'll have an insider's view on launching, growing, and even scaling a sleep consulting business. This is not a podcast about sleep training. This is a podcast about business building and entrepreneurship. Hi, everybody. Coming to you live from my car this week on the Becoming a Sleep Consultant podcast. I am on my way to my favorite hour of the week, which is a tennis lesson with my oldest friend. And since the weather has warmed up, we've moved our lesson from indoors to outdoors. And this is the first time this spring that I'm going to be playing outside, and it is a gorgeous sunny day here in Baltimore. So I am in a fantastic mood, and I'm realizing that it's Tuesday, and every single Tuesday I have to have some sort of content ready for next Tuesday to be on the podcast. I had nothing planned for next week and was trying to rack my brain and think like, what could I talk about? What topics have we not discussed? What would be new and interesting? And time is limited. I was on calls all morning. I have this, you hear my car beeping because a motorcycle just drove up next to me too close. So my car was like, get out of the way. And I agree. Time is limited. I had a couple of calls this morning. I'm running off to play tennis. I have a couple of calls this afternoon, and then I go get my kids from school, and my husband is away. He is on work travel in Europe all week. So I am solo parenting, and I certainly have my hands full. But, I was thinking about this, and what it made me realize is that two things. One, no matter how busy you are, you always have time to do the things that you prioritize, right? Like I'm in the car racing to my tennis lesson and realizing that I don't want to run a rerun on the podcast. I want fresh content every single week. I ran a rerun a couple of weeks ago because I was away. I was on a cruise with my family, which was fantastic. No regrets. But I certainly was not going to record a podcast. We were all in one tiny little room. There was no space for that. There was no way it was happening. So rerun then, totally fine. But the podcast is really my true passion project. I love it. It brings me joy both to record every single week, to release content, and to share with all of you, and to hear your feedback, to hear from people that say, that really resonated with me, or you hit the nail on the head, or I really needed to hear this today. I love that. So if you are a regular listener, first of all, please chime in. If you love an episode, please let me know. If you want to hear something specific on the podcast, please say so. Slide into my DMs on Facebook, email me, message me through the Center for Pediatric Sleep Management website, whatever you want. I would love to hear from you. And, I work very, very hard to keep the content on the podcast interesting and engaging. And I want to show up for you guys every single week. I don't want to go weeks and weeks and weeks and not show up for you, because that's just not the way that I show up in my business. And that's the other thing. That's really what I wanted to talk about on the podcast today, is that if you are going to grow a successful business, you have to show up in your business consistently, regularly, with an expected cadence. And it doesn't need to be on social media. It doesn't need to be a podcast. I always tell people that consulting businesses existed long before Instagram, long before the podcast apps, right? So you can totally grow a business old school, and you can go out for coffee with people. You can meet, you can have phone or Zoom or FaceTime calls, whatever it may be. But you got to get out there and connect with your ideal customer, with your prospective clients, with referral partners. You have to be out there doing that on some sort of regular cadence in order to grow a business. And, people ask me all the time, like, how hard is it to be successful in this line of work? What are my chances? Am I really capable of this? Can I grow a successful business? And I really truly believe if I look at those who are struggling versus those who are thriving, I really do think those who are thriving are consistently showing up in their businesses. They're talking to people, they're putting themselves out there, they're making their businesses the priority, and they're working on refining their communication strategies, their verbiage. You know, when I first started this podcast back in February of 2022, I never in a million years would have felt enough confidence to record an episode from my car. I never would have done that. For the first, I think, year of the podcast, I only did interviews with other sleep consultants because I was too scared to show up on the show alone. And it was actually, I think, a goal of mine, I'm pretty sure in year two, to show up on the podcast solo without any support systems, just me and my microphone and my AirPods, and that's it. And it was scary as hell. And, I was really, really overwhelmed. I think I probably recorded 100 times, but practice makes perfect. And I did it. And people came out of the woodworks to say, like, that was really great. I really enjoy that. You should do that more. And with more practice, I became more comfortable. And here I am 3 years later, talking to you all from my car, feeling totally confident that I can articulate my message in a number of ways, whether it be more formal, whether it be more casual. It doesn't matter. I can just show up and say what I want to say and feel good about it. And that doesn't happen right away. So I guess what I'm here saying to all of you on this beautiful Tuesday in Baltimore from my car is that practice makes perfect and consistency is what grows a business. And you really do have to regularly show up authentically as you, not trying to pretend to be anybody else, not putting on some sort of silly show that doesn't feel like you. Like, this is me. I have no script. I literally had no plan 5 minutes ago. 5 minutes ago, I was voxering back and forth with one of my business besties. I'll give her a shout out, Carrie Necklace. She and I were voxering back and forth, and I was telling her, I need to figure out what's going to be on the podcast this week. I have no plans. I need to get something uploaded. My podcast guy requires that I submit content to him a week in advance, which is understandable. He needs time to upload it all onto the podcast platforms. And I didn't have any plans and I needed to figure it out. And my day was tight. And what was I going to put up? And I was like, what do I talk about? And actually, she hasn't even gotten back to me yet. So by the time I am done recording this podcast, she'll probably have sent me 5 ideas and I'll say, never mind, I already did it. Because you know what? I'm not going to mess around here. When I have something to do, it's on my to-do list. It's non-negotiable. It's mandatory. I have decided in my business that I'm going to show up regularly on the podcast with limited exceptions, right? Every once in a while, when I'm on a cruise ship in the Bahamas, that is an exception. But regularly, I'm going to show up every single Tuesday. So for those of you who are interested, can listen to me talk or ramble or interview someone fantastic. It varies from week to week, but I am going to show up here for you because that is what you are expecting of me. And I hope for those of you who are already sleep consultants who listen to this podcast, I hope you take this message and internalize it and apply it to your own work as a sleep consultant and decide today, if you're not already doing so, to show up in your business regularly in a way that feels good, in a way that's authentic, in a way that's meaningful, in a way that allows you to connect with your prospective clients. Just commit to doing it. Say, I am going to do this. This is non-negotiable. This is important to me. It's important for my business, and I'm going to make it happen. And that's what I decided over 3 years ago when I launched the Becoming a Sleep Consultant podcast, that I wasn't just going to dabble. I was going to show up every single week. And that's what I've done. And for those of you who are not yet sleep consultants, you're interested in becoming a sleep consultant and you're wondering, do I have time for this? Can I make this happen for myself? I would love to support families. I would love to make a difference in the lives of moms and dads and children, but I just don't know if I can do it. What I have to say to you is that you just have to decide that you're going to. It's really as simple as that. When you decide that you're going to do something, then you do it and you keep working on it until you get good at it. And then it starts to feel easier. And then before you know it, you blink your eyes and you're doing it. It's really that simple. The only way to fail is to quit. And if we relate that back to this podcast, the only way that this podcast would have failed, and I put that in air quotes, is if I stopped recording, right? If I just said, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore, then there would be no podcast and it would be done. I would have completely failed because I quit. And so if this is something, I don't know if you guys just heard me park. I'm here. I'm at tennis and I have 6 minutes. So I got to wrap it up because I got to get my shoes on. I got to get some sunscreen on and I got to get down to the courts. But I hope you guys hear me loud and clear that when you prioritize something in your life, when you prioritize something in your business and you really, really want it for yourself, you decide there is no other option. I will make this happen. I don't know when I'm going to make it happen. I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but I'm going to make it happen. That's when the really great things happen. So I hope you all have a fantastic week. I'm off to spend an hour with my oldest and best friend in fresh air on the court, hitting some balls, getting some exercise. And I get to do this. How lucky am I? I get to grow a business that I love and take time for myself and be with old friends. And this is something that I worked very hard for. I didn't snap my fingers and had this beautiful business with all this free time. Like that is not the reality. The reality is that you have to work hard to play hard and you have to be consistent and show up every single day or every single week or whatever it is that you decide and just commit to your own level of greatness. Don't let yourself down and the rest will come. Gotta go, guys. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Becoming a Sleep Consultant podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much to me if you would rate, review, and subscribe. When you rate, review, and subscribe, this helps the podcast reach a greater audience. I am so grateful for your support. If you would like to learn more about how you can become a certified sleep consultant, head over to my Facebook group, Becoming a Sleep Consultant, or to my website, thecpsm.com. Thanks so much, and I hope you will tune in for the next episode.